All right. Hey guys. Um, Welcome to drawing class. I wanted to walk you through this drawing of the tree, and I want, even if you've already done it, I kind of want you to do another one. So if you have the handout, use that, or I have it on iPad, which isn't ideal. But basically, we need to get organized and think about what we should do first. And normally, the first question I think of is what's the lightest part in the drawing? And so, um, if you look at that sheet, and I know it's difficult to look at it digitally, but the foreground here is the lightest part, and it still has a little bit of charcoal on it. So this would be the lightest part, then the second lightest part would be in the back. So identifying what is the first um, lightest area is the most important. And it also helps you organize it and know that this needs charcoal, this needs a value on it, just like the rest of it does, with the exception of some of the lightest areas. Okay, so I drew some simple lines here, and you really have to start super simple. And so the lightest lines, the lines I put in is this line here, which represents the tree row back here, and also this line here, which represents sort of the middle ground area. We'll work on the foreground later, and also notice I'm working from top to bottom, so that, and also back to front, so that I can layer trees on top and put the shadow on top of the ground. So the thing I wanted to make most clear is that every drawing is going to be different, but the way you organize it is very similar. Okay, so I'm going to be setting this down here so I can look at it, but you have your own reference for it, so you should be all set. So just know it's over here. The other thing is um, I have uh, materials. So I've got a piece of charcoal here, black charcoal. I have my vine charcoal, which I drew out here. I'm using vine charcoal because it lifts easily and erases easily, and then I'll transfer to regular compressed charcoal. I have a Arcum eraser because it's soft. Also have my kneaded eraser because it's softer. I have a piece of cloth for blending. I have a chamois for lifting, and my stump, which will be for rendering more, which will be used later. Okay, so I want to keep this going fairly quickly so that I don't spend too much time uh, uploading and all that stuff. But um, let's get started. So basically, as I'm looking at the reference, I want to begin by really lightly laying in the background. So I'll just go really soft. I might have to make this a little darker just so that you can see it, which is fine. Now notice the sort of unevenness of the charcoal. Some of it's a little darker than lighter. In that case, we kind of started to hit this, but if I go over this with a rag, it clearly blends it out, but there's some lighter areas in which I can then come in and kind of darken up so it's a bit more even. Okay, so now that the background is all set, my next step is going to be to start laying in this middle ground, which is a mid-tone, and then so adding some of the dark. So I'm going to work fairly quickly here. And I'm also going to start sort of choreographing the drawing a little bit as well. I've got this diagonal that comes in here. I also want you guys to know that for now, at least for a week or two, I really want to just take these value studies really slow. And what I'm looking for is, can you control the light, and can you control the space through light? And that's the most important part of this process. These are looking a little similar to me, so I'm going to darken this a little bit. So I'm already starting to compare values, which is good. All right, now I can come forward, work on this middle ground. I'm still using the edge of my charcoal not blending yet. We'll blend later. Maybe Wednesday, or render rather. Okay, so now this is going to get laid in. There's also a little bit of darkness up here I want to lay in before I do my trees. Okay, that's pretty nice. Soften some of those edges. Okay, so I got a tree right here. I'm about there. I'm about ready to sort of work my way forward. So here's a tree here. If you make a mistake, no big deal. That's what erasers are for. So I got a tree in here. Another tree back here. Tree here, here. If you go too far, just clean it up. All right, it gets really dark in here. The tree here. A drawing is really only as good as its midtones. Okay, so I have created my midtone, my middle ground rather. I'll darken in here a bit. Okay, middle ground is done for now. We're just laying it in. Looks pretty good. I'm not blending, I'm just laying things in based off my reference. Come a little darker in here. Now these trees are also being hit by the light, so that kind of makes sense that we're going to get ready for the trees, for this tree to be hit by the light. Now we got to start thinking about the foreground, and I want to kind of go super light. Just kind of treat the whole space. Okay, and I'm going to wipe that in. I want this side to be a bit darker. Notice how I'm not doing the shadow. I'm just getting the ground ready so that the shadow can lay on top of it. Now I can start putting some of these details on top. Now this tree is gonna, well, I'm almost there. It's easy to want to jump the gun on this because you know what needs to happen, but you gotta wait for it. So the edges of the shadows on the tree in the foreground are pretty soft, so it's okay to kind of go over it and rub on it, soften the edges up. There comes this. So now I can start thinking about the edges of this tree. I'm using my whole wrist to kind of continue this drawing. And I'm just kind of roughing it out, okay? So I'm pretty happy with that. See how it looks. All right. Needs to come over here a bit more. That looks better. Speed will come with experience in drawing. It just comes with practice. Okay, So already I'm starting to see this drawing kind of come together. Um, and I'm making corrections as I go, drawing corrections. There I am. I'm making drawing corrections, from things that aren't quite right, and I'm going. But the thing is I've set myself up so that my values are right, so that I can work spatially. Now, as I'm looking, I think I probably could darken this just a little bit and kind of push it back. This mid-tone needs to be darker. Darkening that mid-tone in turn helps this kind of come forward. You may want to sort of clean up a little bit with your eraser and show some light. Lightening this here helps this tree come forward. Maybe that one too. So there's lots of work that can be done, but the groundwork that we laid down for this drawing should be pretty much all the same. And notice how there's no real white in the drawing. The midtones are varied. I have a very specific midtone back here, and I have a specific midtone here, and it allows for the light and darks to react spatially within the drawing. So I could work on this all day. I'm not going to, but you can see how this can simply be done in a half hour or so. So what I'd like you to do is give this a try, work this way, and let's see how it goes. I'm going to set up the second drawing, which is this one, next. It's blurry, and I'll fix that, but this is the other drawing that we're going to do. And so my guess to you is, well, no, not my guess, but I guess what would be your guess in terms of setting this drawing up? Would you make one little drawing here, one little drawing here, one little drawing here, and one little drawing here, and all the way around? Or would you treat that as one big space and then put the windows on top? So that is probably what I would do, and it would be a lot easier. So you get more bang for your buck, and you make the landscape more cohesive by treating it all as one thing. So I'd like you to do this drawing and this drawing today, and take a nice picture of it as best you can and send it to me, and let's take a look. And then we can reevaluate things like your midtones, your edges, your lights and darks, okay? Give it a shot, guys. You can do it, all right? I'll talk to you. Bye-bye.